Shireen, what type of float is that showing us? You can ask your husband if he's there. Does he understand this sort of stuff?
He does. He's actually got this qualification.
Well, there you go then.
No, he won't help me. I was going to say terminal, but I don't think that's right. Total?
Right. You can ask a friend if you want, Shireen.
Lauren, please help.
No pressure, Lauren.
I was going to turn my camera off and be like, please don't ask me.
Brilliant.
Oh God, I've got to try and work this out. See,
I
don't know.
Go on, Lauren.
Oh God, don't put the pressure on me to answer questions. Last week wasn't my best week in trying to understand it. I feel like I should ask Polly, but she'd be like, don't ask me.
Let me try and help. Lauren, let me try and help you. There's two types of float, aren't there?
Yeah.
What are they?
Oh gosh, I'm feeling pressured. I'm looking back at my old notes. I've got my notes here and I'm trying to figure it out.
So I guess total. So if it's not that, it must be free float.
So there's two types of float that we've looked at. There are others, but we just focused on total float and free float. Right, so I'm going to help you with this, but you've got to listen, okay? Right, so total float is the amount of time a task can be delayed or overrun without affecting the project duration. Right, and I'm going to give you a huge clue now, but you've just got to listen to the words. If a task is not on the critical path, and I'm going to try and help you a lot here, if a task is not on the critical path, in other words, on the screen there, it's blue. If it's not on the critical path, it must have total float. It can also have free float, but if it's not on the critical path, it must have total float. It might also have free float. Does that help, Lauren, Shireen? Or is that just words?
It does. It's just unfortunately, this isn't my best subject when it comes to working out the flow. To be honest.
Down last week, literally. Yeah.
Spot on. Right.
It's not in the brain, apparently.
The killer task to look at, team, is the purchase task. Can you see the purchase task is blue? Right. And if I said to you that I was trying to be helpful, it must have total float. Right. And this is not showing any float. So therefore this is defaulting to free float. Right. So if I just tweak it, when the dialog box comes up, let me just move it across. So this, for those of you that have dabbled in project, you'll know, oh, too far there. This is just showing all the bars that it's showing on the Gantt chart, and I can change all the color of them and shape of them. But if you look at this bottom one here that I've just clicked on the bottom left of it, the slack or float line, if you look away to the right, can you see it is showing free slack or free float? It is showing free float. And if I convert it to total float, you'll see that the purchase task is now showing total float. So they're all showing total float. That's nothing major. That's not going to influence your lives. But if ever you're dabbling in project, do recognize out of the box, it defaults to showing free float or free slack. Right, if you've got a question on this, I doubt it would be Gantt chart. I think it would probably be network. Right, but you can see the impact, right? And we discussed this previously. So it might show you the network, and it would typically say something like, if the purchase task ran over by 4 days, what would be the impact on the project schedule? If the purchase task, so the purchase task, just to be helpful, the purchase task has got 3 days float, right? So I'm saying to you, if the purchase task, you've just heard back from the people undertaking it, one of the suppliers is causing problems, they think it might go to 7 days. So the purchase task is scheduled initially at 3 days. It's got 3 days float, total float. We're picking up that it might go to 7 days. What do we think the impact of that might be? What might be the impact on the schedule or the Gantt chart? Is that too long ago?
I mean, surely, is it not going to knock it onto the critical path, or it's going to delay the project end date?
Go on then, by how much?
A day? I don't know, am I wrong? Don't put too much pressure on me, Mark. I mean, come on.
I was just trying to embrace that sudden surge of enthusiasm, Lauren.
Oh, yeah, don't. I mean, as I say, I don't know if I'm right or not. I'm just trying.
No, you're talking the right stuff. I'm going to ask Joe. Joe will know this. I want a nice, crisp, concise appraisal, Joe, of what the impact is. The purchase task is going to go to 7 days. What's the impact on durations, critical path, that sort of stuff?
Would the duration
Joe, I
extend
know
by
that way. There's no woulds, no ifs on this. It will what, Joe?
extend by a day, and the purchase and assembly would be on the critical path?
Spot on. You see, I knew you'd do it perfectly, Joe. We don't need any woods. It will. Right. Absolutely right. So, and I'll do this, which you can see is one of the advantages of the software in a minute. So the purchase task has got 3 days float. It's 3 days now. So it can go up to 6 without affecting the end date. That's what the float, total float, is informing you. So I deliberately said 7 there because I knew that that would take it over the top of the float that it's got. So as Joe correctly identified, right, just watch the schedule. So the schedule is 21 days. It will go to 22. Right, and you will see bars changing color from red to blue and vice versa. Okay, so purchase is going to go to 7 and I'm hitting return now. Right, one of the advantages is we've just looked at what if. So we said if the purchase task that was 3 days, so it was 3 days scheduled duration and it had 3 days total float. So if it became 7 days, so that's what you can see. I've changed the duration. I don't know if you can see it in that box that I've highlighted there. I've just made it 7 days, so that's effectively used up the 3 days float and it's gone 1 day beyond. So the critical path has moved and goes through design, purchase, assembly, installation now. And you could see effectively that 1 day overrun has integrated a day's float on the accommodation. So if you look at the accommodation, that's gone blue and it now has a day's free float as a result of the move in the critical path. Right. And that's where the software, one of the advantages of the software, you know, it's nice, it's easy to communicate. We can ship it into Excel, we can PDF it. One of the big pluses for me and Paul is the notion that we can do what if. You know, as well as all the tracking and the nice, clear communication, being able to do this sort of thing is very valuable. Any questions on that before we jump out of that and get back on with the presentation itself?
I have a quick question. Other people might know this, but just for my benefit, this is what I didn't understand what Joe was saying. Where's the critical path?
I think I need Joe to answer that, Joe.
It's just the ones highlighted red on the GANT.
The ones that are highlighted red.
The bars that are red.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So those have got, if you don't do those at that time, Marina, you might remember the project runs out. Okay.
But why was the critical path affected? Just because it went up one day?
So what we did, if I change the purchase back to 3 days, but just watch the bars change color. What did I do? Oh, sorry, I didn't. Right.
Gotcha.
Can you see the critical activities are now different because I've effectively given the purchase task, I've given it its float back, so it had float and it's therefore not critical. That's the original scheme.
Yeah. Okay, now I see it. Thank you.
No worries.